You think you understand Roman decadence, but the hidden sexual abuses of the empire reveal a cruelty history barely dares to record. In the shadowed corridors of Rome, during the twilight of the Republic and the dawn of the empire, a story unfolded that would never appear in the marble halls of official history. Some accounts whisper of pleasures and cruelties so dark that even the most diligent historians dared only hint at them. Petronius once described banquets where the line between ecstasy and horror blurred, and the cries of indulgence mingled with terror. Among the most infamous hosts was Gaius Calpurnius, a wealthy patrician whose lavish gatherings were said to tempt the limits of both morality and imagination. According to rumor, some guests would leave these decadent halls forever changed, their minds haunted by acts never spoken aloud. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden truths of history, consider hitting that like button, and comment below to let me know which city you're listening from, as we step together into the secret, shadowed world of Rome's most forbidden pleasures. In Rome, the gleaming facades of marble villas and the golden corridors of public life concealed a world of private indulgence and hidden vice. Society was rigidly hierarchical. Senators and patricians enjoyed privileges unimaginable to the plebeians, and within these ranks, moral expectations often served more as theatre than reality. Public virtue was displayed in speeches, rituals, and legal decorum, while private vice lingered behind closed doors. At the heart of Roman households stood the paterfamilias, the male head who held absolute authority over family, property, and, tragically, the bodies of those under his control. While men of status were free to pursue pleasures both legal and illicit, women, citizens, and especially slaves, were bound by stringent social rules, their conduct scrutinized at every public turn. Yet in private, even these women were often drawn into worlds of secret indulgence, sometimes willingly, sometimes through coercion. Accounts from Tacitus, Suetonius, and Juvenal illuminate this duality. Tacitus's histories hint at emperors and magistrates, whose lust for power extended into intimate cruelty. Suetonius chronicled the private excesses of Rome's rulers, and Juvenal's satires cast a scathing eye on the dissonance between public decorum and hidden depravity. One could wander through a patrician villa and feel this duality in every shadowed corner. The soft glow of oil lamps reflecting on frescoed walls in a dimly lit triclinium, the faint scent of incense masking the tension in hidden chambers, where guests and slaves might be drawn into pleasures and horrors the city above would never imagine. It was a world where morality was a mask, and desire, the secret pulse behind the marble and gold, knew no restraint. In the heart of Rome, the banquet was more than a meal. It was a stage for excess, indulgence, and secret transgressions. Guests reclined on sumptuous couches, surrounded by tables heaped with exotic delicacies, peacock tongues, dormice stuffed with honey, and wines imported from distant provinces. Yet food was merely a prelude. Entertainment often blurred into realms of sexual display and coercion, a theatre of desire and dominance hidden behind the facade of polite society. Petronius's Satyricon, particularly the infamous Scena Trimalchionis, offers glimpses into this decadent world. It describes hosts who employed slaves not merely to serve, but to provoke, to entice, and to satisfy whims that ranged from playful to cruel. Exotic animals prowled between guests, the scent of incense and scented oils mingling with the faint tang of wine and sweat, while hidden alcoves offered private spaces for acts the city above could never condone. Some accounts whisper of female guests, or even male companions of the host, being coerced into participation, invited by polite suggestion, yet trapped by the weight of social expectation or fear of scandal. According to rumor, these participants often left transformed, carrying the memory of humiliation alongside the thrill of indulgence, a duality that mirrored the very city itself, dazzling in public, shadowed and dangerous in private. One could imagine the flickering torchlight dancing across sculpted walls, gilded frescoes reflecting the opulence of the room while muffled cries and laughter echoed from hidden chambers. Every corner of the villa held possibility, pleasure, terror, or both intertwined, leaving witnesses and participants alike to wonder whether their indulgence was sin or survival. Behind the grandeur of Roman villas and the gleam of patrician dining halls lay a grim reality. Slavery was not merely a labor system, it was the backbone of indulgence, and sexual exploitation was an accepted, even invisible part of daily life. For the powerful, slaves were tools of desire, stripped of autonomy. their bodies subject to whims that society would never have tolerated for a citizen woman. Legal texts, such as the Digest of Roman Law and philosophical reflections in Seneca's letters, provide stark evidence of this normalized cruelty. The law distinguished sharply between citizen and slave, offering protection and dignity to the former, while the latter existed almost entirely at the mercy of their masters. Sexual violation of slaves was not only tolerated but expected, woven into the very fabric of elite life. Among countless unnamed victims, one story survives, that of Livia, a young slave girl whose plight is preserved through legal petitions. She was forced to entertain multiple masters during feasts and private gatherings, enduring acts that stripped her of dignity and imposed a daily terror upon her existence. Rumor held that Livia's faint protestations were ignored, her body treated as property, a silent testament to the disparity between law and lived reality. The contrast was stark. Roman citizen women, especially of the patrician class, could invoke laws against adultery or defamation. Slaves like Livia had no such recourse. Their suffering remained hidden behind the glimmering facades of villas, whispered only in shadowed corners. Within these spaces, desire and cruelty entwined, leaving a trail of human cost that official histories rarely acknowledge. Beyond the ordinary indulgences of banquets and private feasts, the Romans harbored a fascination with the exotic, the foreign, and the taboo. Tales whisper of imported courtesans, slaves, and even performers brought from distant provinces, each carrying customs and acts that Roman elites found simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. The body became a canvas for experimentation, where pleasure and pain, domination and submission, intertwined in ways that blurred the line between human desire and cruelty. Literary sources hint at these extremes. Juvenal's satires scathingly describe acts of public humiliation and perverse roleplay, while Apuleius's The Golden Ass recounts orgiastic rituals in which participants were compelled to act out grotesque fantasies, sometimes against their will. Rumor suggested that in certain households, guests might be required to enact elaborate scenarios, their bodies and minds manipulated for the amusement of the wealthy. The psychological impact was profound. Pleasure was inseparable from fear. Delight was fused with shame. Participants, whether free or enslaved, often left these gatherings haunted, carrying memories that defied both law and social expectation. The thrill of indulgence became a shadow, following them long after the torches had been extinguished and the marble halls emptied. In Rome, the exotic was more than novelty. It was a gateway into the darkest corners of human desire, where curiosity, cruelty, and obsession met in elaborate and often horrifying interplay. Even the grandest villas and most honored households of Rome hid horrors beyond imagination. Among the whispers passed down through Tacitus's histories are accounts of sexual violence so extreme that modern readers struggle to comprehend them. Coerced acts, orchestrated by magistrates and senators alike, often unfolded behind locked doors, leaving victims powerless and invisible to the law. One particularly chilling story speaks of a senator's household where young girls, brought from rural towns or enslaved families, were trafficked for the amusement of Rome's elite. The girls were paraded, humiliated, and subjected to acts of violence disguised as entertainment. Tacitus hints at the complicity of servants, the indifference of guards, and the complete absence of recourse for those trapped in this world. Viewed through a modern psychological lens, the trauma endured by these victims is staggering. Persistent fear, coerced compliance, and the intersection of pleasure and terror would have left deep, lifelong scars. The girls' minds, shaped under duress and repeated abuse, carry echoes of a society where power and cruelty were inseparable, and where suffering was often invisible to the privileged world above. In these private chambers, the veneer of Roman civility shattered completely, revealing the depths of human cruelty and the stark reality that, for many, survival demanded the surrender of both body and will. In the public eye, Rome prided itself on law, order, and moral rectitude, yet beneath the proclamations of justice, the legal system codified a glaring inequality. Male citizens, particularly those of status, were granted near limitless sexual freedom, while women, slaves, and non-citizens bore the consequences of transgression. The Lex Julia de Adulteriis Coescendis, enacted under Augustus, ostensibly punished adultery, but its protections were primarily aimed at safeguarding the honor of citizen wives. Men, by contrast, faced few consequences for sexual transgressions, especially when the victims were slaves or socially inferior. Tacitus and Suetonius both note cases where powerful men violated women with impunity. their actions cloaked in social privilege and legal loopholes. This dichotomy created a society where law served as a mask of morality, concealing private indulgences that defied public virtue. Villas that gleamed in the sun's light hid chambers where the law had little reach, and the powerful moved freely between legality and sin. In effect, Rome sanctioned indulgence for the elite while leaving the powerless exposed, their suffering ignored, their voices silenced. The contrast between law and practice illustrates the unsettling truth. Public moral standards in Rome often existed to protect appearances rather than to restrain desire, revealing a culture where legality and licentiousness coexisted in uneasy, often brutal harmony. Even devotion could mask indulgence in Rome. Certain cults, most famously the Bacchic mysteries, incorporated ritualized sexual acts into their ceremonies, blending the sacred with the profane in ways that both thrilled and terrified participants. These rites promised ecstasy and divine favor, yet participation often demanded acts that blurred moral and physical boundaries, creating a tension between piety and pleasure that haunted the initiates long after the rituals ended. Archaeological evidence, friezes, frescoes, and small votive figurines depicts Dionysian revelries with participants entwined in ecstatic dances, sometimes in suggestive poses that hint at sexual experimentation. Literary sources, including Livy and Ovid, describe initiations where devotees were encouraged to abandon inhibitions, surrendering to the ecstatic pull of the divine, while engaging in acts that would be scandalous in ordinary life. The psychological effect was profound. Devotees were caught between reverence and desire, obedience and indulgence. The rites blurred the line between spiritual devotion and corporeal satisfaction, leaving participants transformed, often haunted by memories that mingled fear, guilt, and pleasure. In the shadows of temple halls and under the flicker of ritual flames, the sacred and the sensual became inseparable, revealing yet another layer of Rome's intricate, dark fascination with the body and its appetites. At the pinnacle of Rome's hierarchy, the private lives of emperors often descended into excess so extreme that they became legend. Nero, Caligula, and other rulers were notorious not merely for political tyranny, but for indulgences that transgressed all bounds of decency. Their palaces became theatres of cruelty and pleasure, where desire and domination intertwined in the moonlit shadows. Historical accounts whisper of forced sexual games, in which guests and servants alike were compelled to participate under threat or social pressure. Nighttime escapades unfolded in secret gardens, the silver light of the moon glinting off marble statues as intoxicated courtiers moved through hidden alcoves. Lavish orgies stretched through the night, punctuated by music, laughter, and cries that blurred the line between revelry and suffering. Petronius and Suetonius both describe scenes of shocking excess, masked guests led into darkened chambers, exotic animals roaming between the intoxicated, and acts performed not merely for pleasure, but to assert power, humiliate rivals, and demonstrate absolute control. The sensory world was vivid, rich perfumes mingling with wine, the softness of silk against trembling skin, the cold marble floor beneath bare feet, all amplifying the intensity of indulgence and terror. In these imperial settings, desire became a tool of domination, and the palace itself a labyrinth of secret pleasures and hidden horrors. Few outside the elite world witnessed it. Yet the legacy of these scandals rippled through literature and rumour, a chilling reminder of power's ability to corrupt both law and morality. The secret indulgences and hidden cruelties of Rome left an indelible mark not only on the lives of those who endured them, but also on the culture that documented them. Roman literature and satire became mirrors reflecting a society fascinated by excess, using exaggeration and moral commentary to grapple with the contradictions between public virtue and private vice. Writers like Juvenal and Petronius wielded their pens to expose decadence, blending humour, horror, and critique to illuminate the extremes of human desire. Historians such as Suetonius often amplified these tales, presenting imperial scandals in ways that served as moral instruction for readers. The line between fact and embellishment was thin, yet these accounts provide a window into a world where indulgence, cruelty, and power were inseparable. Rumour, exaggeration, and literary flourish combined to immortalize the psychological toll on both perpetrators and victims, leaving a complex legacy that continues to fascinate scholars and storytellers alike. Modern forensic psychology and studies on sexual abuse of power offer striking parallels. Patterns of coercion, domination, and trauma observed in these ancient accounts echo in contemporary understanding of how power dynamics facilitate abuse. Victims enduring fear, shame, and altered perception of self mirror the experiences of those trapped in the shadowed halls of Rome, reminding us that while centuries have passed, the interplay of power, desire, and suffering remains tragically consistent. In tracing these legacies, we confront not only the historical record but the persistent human truths underlying it. That extreme indulgence in power, whether sanctioned by law or hidden by social hierarchy, leaves lasting scars on the individual and collective psyche. In the silent villas of Rome, long after the torches have burned out and the marble halls have cooled, shadows still seem to whisper the horrors of indulgence unrestrained by law or conscience. Behind every gilded door, behind every whispered rumor, lay lives shaped by fear, coercion, and the relentless assertion of power. The trauma endured by slaves, servants, and lower-class victims, those whose names history often forgets, lingers in these stories. A haunting reminder of human suffering hidden beneath the veneer of civilization. Whether fact or legend, the tales of Rome's secret pleasures reveal the depths of human desire and cruelty, a world where beauty and horror coexisted, and where moral pretense could never fully conceal the darkness beneath. The echoes of these private indulgences remind us that behind every society's grandeur, there are stories of oppression, manipulation, and the fragile boundaries of consent. If you found this journey into Rome's hidden histories compelling, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more explorations of the untold past, and comment below to let us know which city you're watching from. Step carefully, for the shadows of Rome still have stories to tell, waiting to be uncovered.